This is a recap of our trip to Juneau, Alaska. We reached our final northbound stop in Juneau on June 14th. On May 13th, we departed Sunshine Beach Marina in Northwest Bay, destination Refuge Cove, a small marina with fuel, groceries, pub, and often happy hours. On May 14th, we went through 5 sets of rapids on our way to Forward Harbor. We passed through Yakultas, Gallard, and Dent, close to Slack. We then waited in a small bay for Greenpoint to die down. A Ranger tug 28 feet, Tonto, owned by Terry and Debbie, which they towed from Missouri to Anacortes and going to Alaska, took the rapids against a strong current. We played it safe and went through Greenpoint an hour later and passed through Whirlpool at Slack. On May 15th, the day the rain started, we went to Lagoon Cove, run by Kelly and Dan. They bring in prawns every day for happy hour, a popular marina. On May 16th, we went to Sointula and took a spot on their government dock. Cheap, friendly, a great food shack at the head of the dock, a grocery store in town, laundry, and good hiking. On May 18th, we went to Port McNeill for fuel, a dinner out, and waited out good weather for crossing Cape Caution. On May 20th, we anchored in Clam Cove, which is a protective cove, and cut our trip around the Cape by almost half. On May 21st, we anchored in Fury Cove, a lovely bay protected and able to see the strait. On May 22nd, we docked at Ocean Falls, a good place to meet boaters and a nice walk to the dam. On May 25th, we stayed in Shearwater for 3 days to wait out the strong winds and pouring rain. On May 28th, we bypassed one of our favorite bays, Rescue Bay, good paddling but not so good for walking and patrolled by wolves. We then anchored in Bottleneck Cove, and that was pleasant. On May 29th, we tied up at a small dock in Buttedale. You should email to reserve a space, although there is no control. Due to rain, we stayed 2 nights instead of the limit of 1. On May 31st, we bypassed Low Inlet because it was raining and anchored in East Inlet, part of Clunugget Marine Park. It was very pleasant, and nobody was there. On June 1st, again, we bypassed Baker's Inlet and reached Prince Rupert. Some ugly waves on the way. We stayed at the Sailing and Rowing Club in Prince Rupert. Great service, professional help docking in a strong wind, and a good laundromat and shopping close by. On June 3rd, the weather was good to cross Dixon Entrance. We cleared U.S. Customs in Prince Rupert using the row map with no problem and made our way to Foggy Bay, U.S. We saw a black bear hanging out on the shore. On June 4th, we were boarded by the U.S. Coast Guard close to Ketchikan for a safety check. We were then in Ketchikan for 3 days. We rode the free bus to see the cruise ships and shop. We had dinner with Brass Monkey and Ocean Song, a fun place. On June 7th, we went into Myers Chuck, which had a government dock and is a popular stop. There's a good hike to the beach. On June 8th and 9th, we spent 2 days in Wrangell, great pizza at the nearby pub. On June 10th and 11th, we spent another 2 days in Petersburg. We had dinner with Odyssey, Carol, and Gary. She gave us homemade biscotti, and I returned the favor by giving her homemade bread. They were a nice couple. On June 12th, we bypassed Cleveland due to rain and cold and anchored in Snug Cove, part of Gambier Bay. It was peaceful. On June 13th, on to Taku Harbor. We saw lots of humpbacks and got videos on the way. Taku was very nice. Nice docks, lots of people, all from the U.S. and some from Wrangell and Juneau. June 14th, we finally reached Juneau. We stopped outside Harris Bay, just past the bridge, and called for a spot to dock. We were told it was full and were sent to Douglas Bay on the other side of the bridge and across from on Douglas Island across from Harris Bay. The dock was too small, and we were disappointed that we were so far away from downtown. On the second day, we were told to move to another spot because the dockmaster had put us into a private dock. A nice young woman offered to take us to Home Depot and Costco. The next day, had to move again to another dock. However, the walking in parks was great, and we took a bus to downtown, only $2. We met Terry, who worked for Frank at Orenda about 20 years ago. She was on a cruise ship we spent time in Salty Dog Pub. The others were drinking hard lemonade and the house specialty, Salty Dog. Me, I drank wine. An early night for me. A nice ending to our stay in Juneau. We stayed longer than planned due to a storm that prevented our cruise passenger friends from doing an outside trip. We later learned that a cruise ship broke loose from her moorings during the storm. An alternative to Juneau or Harris Bay is Auk Bay. It seems to be better set up for cruising boats with easy access to Juneau. Maybe next time.